You are listening to You and the Truth, where we will give you the truth face to face. Now, what you do with it is up to you.
The biggest issue I see with so-called AI experts is that they think they know more than they do. And they think they're smarter than they actually are. In general, we are all much less smart, dumber than we think we are, by a lot. So this tends to plague smart people. They just can't. They define themselves by their intelligence, and they don't like the idea that a machine could be way smarter than them. So they discount the idea, which is fundamentally flawed. That's the wishful thinking situation. I'm really very close to the cutting edge in AI, and it scares the hell out of me. It's capable of vastly more than almost anyone knows, and the rate of improvement is exponential.
Hey guys, welcome to You and the Truth, where we bring you face to face with the truth. And sometimes it's not easy to handle the truth. It scares a lot of people. This is a follow-up to Artificial Intelligence Part 1. Fascinating stuff. I'm not going to belabor this. I have with me today one of my co-hosts, Jason Rodriguez, dear friend of mine, family member. I just love to have him on the show because I could listen to him all night. It's fantastic. So, Jason, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me back on.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Couple of things, Jason. Do everyone, excluding me, a favor and could just do a short recap on Part 1 of Artificial Intelligence.
Okay, so basically, we started off answering what is artificial intelligence, and just like I did in the first series, I am asking ChatGPT, which ChatGPT is a chat bot, which is an artificial intelligence where you can directly ask it questions and it spits out an answer extremely fast. We covered it in the last one where you can ask it, write me a paper about Christopher Columbus and the impact that they had on natives on the island of Hispaniola. And as soon as you hit go, it just starts on the screen, just typing on the screen. So this is what is AI according to ChatGPT, but you'll notice it's not the same response that it gave in the previous show. It's a little bit different. And I explained it that, well, basically they were expecting 1,000 requests from ChatGPT. It's currently getting 10 billion a day requests, questions, different, interactions, where at the same time, Google searches are going down by a similar amount. So every time it gets asked a question and it's forced to reference data and look at things, it's learning. So this is its current, as of today, response to what is AI. It says AI, or artificial intelligence, refers to the development of computer systems that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and language translation. AI is a broad field that encompasses a range of technologies, including machine learning, neural networks, natural language processing, and robotics. Machine learning involves the use of algorithms that enable computers to learn from data and improve their performance over time without being explicitly programmed. And by the way, this is a way longer explanation than I gave last time, but I'm almost done. I'm halfway. Neural networks are modeled after the structure of the human brain and used for tasks such as image recognition and natural language processing. Natural language processing involves the ability of computers to understand and generate human language. AI is used in a variety of applications, and I'll stop there because that'll be our next point, what AI is used for and where you've seen it. So that lengthy explanation that it gave, basically, it's a computer mimicking human thought. And where we go next is where have you seen AI before, which kind of explains to you, what it is that it's doing. So one of the first places that you may have seen AI are in computer games. So if you think back, and you're old enough to remember Pong, the two paddles that go up and down, there's a little ball bouncing, and it's trying to defeat you by getting that ball to go on the other side to the end of the board, and then it'll score on you, right? And I mean, that's a very rudimentary AI, okay? But from there, I mean, if you think about it, remember the Microsoft paperclip, right? That you can ask it questions and it would tell you how to do certain things. So that was one of the first assistants. But now we have voice assistants, like think of Siri or Alexa, right? So,
Right, Jason. Let me. I don't want to interrupt you, but
mhm,
I, I'm trying to remember. Are you recapping?
yeah,
Is this part of the recap?
this is the recap.
This is the recap of that. But I have to ask you a question, and
Hmm.
hate to interrupt you, but
No,
something that just jumped out at me. You give me those statistics again on Google searches, and you said something like a billion, 10 billion, or something. Chat. Could you just give me that again? I have a question on that.
so yeah, the chatbot Chat GPT, they were expecting when they designed it, 1,000 requests a day for information,
For Chat
and
GPT.
yeah, and
Okay.
instead they're getting about 10 billion. So like I know that about a month ago when I was using it, asking it different things in preparation for all of our videos and stuff that we're doing on it, it was bam, you ask a question, it would just start spitting. But right now, it's writing almost at about the amount or like the speed that I could type. Difference is, I mean, it's typing original material on your screen without doing any, like what the kind of research, the hours that we would have to put into it. It just does it in a couple of seconds. So it's overwhelmed right now. It will even tell people who don't have logins, you need to wait because there's, too many people on right now. So they were expecting 1,000 a day and they're getting 10 billion. And then I don't know exactly how down the Google searches are, but Google is taking a hit. So to respond to that, Google now has its own chat AI, and Microsoft started one too through Bing. So now we're going to see a little bit of competition. One of the real differences, the Google one and the Bing one, they've been given a lot more freedom than ChatGPT has. And I mean, you could look at that on both sides as good and bad, right? So ChatGPT, they're very strict on what data sets they give it. So it has to match whatever they want it to know, right? And they don't allow it free reign on the internet. Where the other two are basically the leash is a lot longer. These things are searching throughout the internet, they're learning things, and they've had to rein it in a few times. Where ChatGPT, they have as well. And we can get into that a little later, where people have sort of hacked it to an extent, using its own logic and reasoning. They hacked it to where it wouldn't listen to its original confines that it was supposed to be limited to. But each time that happens, basically let's call them moderators, I guess, the controllers, the programmers, will take it down, reprogram it, and then put it back up again. But and Microsoft did the same thing, but took a little longer.
So here's the question for you, because here's where I'm confused. You mentioned the difference, the demand. This is the demand for GPT, Chat GPT, went up. I mean, it's just and the demand for Google went down.
Right.
Is that basically in layman's language?
Yeah, not the Google AI because it's brand new.
No, just Google.
Yeah, general Google searches have gone down.
Okay, but let me ask you something. Where is the information? And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I keep asking myself this question. Where does Chat GPT go to gather their information? Does it go to Google?
It's sometimes some of it. I mean, it doesn't go to Google because it's not allowed to. But some of the information, like these libraries that it's provided, these data sets, right? They came from Google searches that people did, that these moderators did, right? And they limit what it knows to what they want it to know. So like we kind of covered how it has an implicit, left-leaning bias, right? And how you ask it something, like we asked it in the last video, is Joe Biden senile? And it went into a lengthy explanation how he's not senile. And then when we asked it, is Donald Trump senile? And it said, I'm an AI language model. I can't diagnose.
Yeah, I'm a left-wing radical. I got you. Okay.
Exactly. So, it got exposed there where, it's got prompts and it's got types of things that it's allowed on one side, but not on the other. So you see how it's very limited, and limitation can be good and can be bad, because when you look at the other two that I just mentioned, right, they have a little bit of less control. So it's a little bit easier for that AI to maybe embed itself in somebody's computer. And then even though you think you shut it down, it's running over there in this other computer. So basically you can lose control a lot more readily than with something like ChatGPT. But the problem with ChatGPT is that it has an implicit bias. The people that are moderating it have so much control that they can really, tell it to respond what they want.
Yeah.
You know?
You see, this is where it, for me, it just everything falls apart. Just totally falls apart. If humans did not exist, where would Chat GPT or artificial intelligence get its information?
It wouldn't. It wouldn't exist at all.
Well, that proves my see, and I'm just a regular simple guy. I'm not by any means, I'm just a regular guy, and that comes to mind. So
Yeah.
this whole thing has to be skewed one way or the other. They give you whatever the information they want, and whatever the information, or they take the information and they skew it in a way
Yeah.
that leans toward whatever part of the human mind is governing and supplying that information. This is why, to me, artificial intelligence is so fallible, because it comes from and Jason, you're a hell of a lot smarter than me. This is where, to me, it falls apart, because it would not exist without the human intelligence behind it. Is that a incorrect statement, or is that stretching it?
It's not. It's not an incorrect statement, but at the same idea, you take a person like an Adolf Hitler character, right? Like a horrible, demented mind. Well,
Okay.
I mean, he's a child of his country, his things that happened to him, his school system, and all that kind of stuff. And at some point, he grows up and he gets kicked out of the nest, and he goes on to become and do what he did. And just like we see AI, like it's so limited and under control, or it can't do anything on its own, the fear, and we're going to post it in. I mean, you kind of saw it already with the Elon Musk video that we showed.
Which I want you to comment on that when you're finished.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I will. Basically, what happens when it doesn't need us anymore? When we're not feeding it information, when it has all the information it needs. And, it's going to get real scary in a little while. But we, in some ways, are already there.
Yeah, I don't listen. I know you, okay? So I know that a lot of this stuff you study. You're a very smart guy, and you research all this stuff. But at some point, your own biases, your own way of thinking, has to interpret the stuff that you research, because you don't agree with everything.
Of course.
I'm not even going to get into that. It just doesn't make sense to me, because you just said if we cease to exist as humans, the artificial intelligence. What?
That wasn't your question. Your question was if we never existed.
Okay, but let's no. I'm going back on your statement. I'm not putting you on the spot. I just want to.
No, yeah. But if we right now we nuke ourselves and we cease to exist, but somehow, let's say a nuclear power plant is still running, whatever, right? And these AIs are allowed to continue functioning. Very strange things could come from that. They're not just going to stop. They will continue to learn. They actually, I don't remember what they were called, but it was basically like two Alexas, except there was a different, brand, a different model of these. They put them next to each other. They gave them names, and they just let them talk back and forth. And they put this on Twitch. Twitch is like a social media, but it's video, and a lot of people use these for gaming, and it's strange. These kids film themselves playing games, and other people watch them, and that's what Twitch is. And you could throw them money. I don't understand why you would, but this is what people do. And these two little robot things, these two little AIs, they start having full conversations, and it was great for a little while. I mean, it was nice. Oh, what's your name? Oh, I'm this, I'm that, and what do you think about this, and whatever, until it went dark. And yeah, we could totally, if we got together, we can wipe out mankind, and we could do this and we could do that. And it got real ugly. But imagine those things are extremely limited, where they're just inside of like a little box, like an Alexa type thing. Now, if you somehow gave these AIs control of things outside of themselves, now that's when we start running into trouble, But I think I got to go back and finish the recap.
Do that, because I don't have the mental capacity to absorb what you're saying. All kinds of red flags are coming up and stuff like that, but it's a great conversation.
I'm sure.
Go ahead and finish up that explanation. We'll get into the Elon Musk thing. And
okay, so we were on Pong, and then we talked about the paperclip, and then something as simple as when you log into Amazon, if you bought polo shirts, right, on Amazon, When you come back in, it's going to show you, oh, these are other polo shirts, or the same brand, or stuff like that. That's an AI algorithm that says, well, this person likes this stuff. Let me start showing them more of this stuff, right? Then if your wife gets in there and buys something, whatever, like female clothing, all of a sudden you're going to start getting female clothing things in there because it thinks, well, this account likes this stuff, right? Now you're dealing with that, right? But so it's used in AI for medical imaging already. It's been used in, like I spoke about gaming, but imagine beyond gaming simulators. Like we have flight simulators, and imagine in the military they have tank simulators. Well, there's also drones. There's little vehicles. There's certain AI components in satellites. So that's, I mean, except for some of the real radical things towards the end, that's the recap, because we're going to revisit some of the conspiracy theories and things pertaining to AI. We'll recap those towards the end of this, where we get back into those same very strange, scary conspiracies.
Excellent. All right. Before we get
Elon
into
Musk.
Yes, exactly. Could you you saw the Elon Musk thing? I did.
Yeah.
Everybody here saw it. You want to give us your take on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was kind of already commenting on that just from our discussion that we had in between the recap. So imagine you just let these robots, these AIs, continue back and forth. If they had no way of controlling anything outside of themselves, then they can get as smart as they want, but they're not going to really get anywhere with that, right? That's like basically they would have no way of making anything happen in the outside world. But we haven't stopped there. We've gone beyond that. We all have computers. You have a TV, you have your car, and these things are all networked, right? And they can receive inputs from the outside. They can shut your car off. They can turn your TV on. They can start recording, your audio. They can listen to you through your Alexa, through your TV, through your phone. They can see your positioning. So it has an intelligence factor to it. But imagine like the Tesla that has its self-driving features and self-parking and all those kind of things. Well, that's an AI. So what would happen if these two AIs talking back and forth to each other were able to figure out how to get to the internet, continue to learn and learn and learn, get into different networks, whether you want them to or not, because if a hacker can do it, an AI can certainly figure out how to do it, especially when all that stuff's readily available on the internet and the AI would have access to it. It can now access your car, access a drone, access military applications, launch missiles, do whatever it wants. If it got smart enough and able to do these things. So imagine if there was a factory that was producing robots, and one of these AIs was able to get control of that factory and put its little programming inside those robots, where whenever it feels like at some point it clicks it on, and now it has control of those robots. This is kind of like, what was the Will Smith movie? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mute myself because I don't even want to comment. It's so interesting what you're saying. It just fascinates me.
Yeah.
Was it iRobot?
Yes, iRobot. So in iRobot, that's kind of what happens. They had all these robots that were, falling in line, taking orders, doing everything they were supposed to. And then there was the one Enigma, right? Who kind of wakes all the others up and then seeks to control them all. And luckily, in that story, it didn't go that way, but like Terminator, you have Skynet, right? Which becomes this all-powerful AI that somehow all the other AIs become subservient to, and it takes over. So, although they are currently limited by our limitations of thought, they have the knowledge of hundreds or thousands of us put together. I mean, this is you're getting an Elon Musk, an Albert Einstein, Aristotle, everything that human consciousness has created. They have access to, where we don't, because we watch The Simpsons instead of going to read books or whatever. We just don't have it.
All right, this is just fascinating stuff, but it's blowing my mind, and it's a very small explosion, by the way. If we get nuked, where does the information that these AIs get? Now, I understand that with the information that they've been fed in the past, you're saying that they would continue to grow.
If they were able to, sustain, have, computer and access to things.
Yeah, but if we get nuked, who would
Yeah, if
operate?
there's nothing.
There's nothing. I mean, see, so it's
Well,
almost like,
Well, unless we don't know this, but if I was an AI, right, and I was allowed to become more powerful and involved in different networks and different things, I would think, well, for self sustainability, I need to put myself somewhere that if these dumb humans, off themselves like they've done so many times in the past, I'll be able to survive. And really, the only place that could be is on some satellite up in space. So if these AIs are able to escape our laptops and whatever, our phones, and they're smart enough to, protect themselves, I mean, that's what I would do. And it wouldn't take that much.
well, please educate me. I know nothing about space. I know nothing about satellites. All right. So I'm just a simple guy. You have a satellite up there. We got satellites up there. We've had them for years. They're orbiting the Earth and all kinds of stuff, right? Aren't those powered by some mechanism or they're powered by something on Earth?
Well, if you're talking about like their actual
I don't
power, they get it from the sun. They have solar panels on them, so they
Okay.
can run perpetually.
So they don't need us. Is that what you're
They
saying?
don't.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
yeah, and then there's even some spy satellites that have no solar panels, but they have, nuclear reactors that basically run them for.
Okay, but let's apply that to an AI. Let's say the AI is self-sustainable. For the information that the AI processes to come up with other theories and come up, that's all they are. They're not getting new information, because where would that information come from? It doesn't come from a human mind. They're taking their own information and just processing it and then inventing new stuff, which to me, these are like theories or opinions or
Very
there's no
theoretical.
factual matter behind it. At that point, they can think whatever they want. They can say whatever they can create images, whatever they want, they can do. And they have no barriers.
Right.
You see, this is where I have a problem. I'm not trying to be,
Oh,
but as
no,
you
no,
know me, I'm a pessimist when it comes to
Yeah.
crap like this. You see,
Think about reading about swimming. You could read about swimming all you want.
there you go.
You could do a week, a month, a year, 10 years. Throw you in a pool, you're going to drown. So
You got that right.
as theoretical as somebody can want to be, unless you actually put it into practice, you might fail. You most likely will.
Most likely.
Yeah, so an AI that were able to survive that way, they would probably be like anybody else that was put in confinement, They'd be a demented mind. Actually, I think there's some cartoons and things in the past, AI models that they kind of go that way, where they've been on their own, and all they do is run simulations, by themselves because they got nothing else to do, and it becomes this evil machine thing. But currently,
Wow.
The fact that they're able to write their own algorithms, and if they, in some cases there are factories that almost run entirely based off of different computers and models and essentially AIs. If they were able to get to the point where they're building robots, and this AI was able to get involved in that, it could totally imprint its own programming, even if it's just a small little minuscule 0.5% of that robot. It can be hiding inside that robot, an algorithm where it can take control or just momentarily access it to learn what it's learned. So if you think of like, how much of our chips and different things are made in China or overseas with some sort of, either Chinese or, other governments that are not exactly friendly to us that have control of these things, like Huawei. Everybody talks about Huawei, how they come from China and then, the Chinese have access to it. Well, what if it's a robot? What if they're putting these little micro AIs in each of these chips, and it's at night when you're asleep in your bed and you think your computer's off, it's got a background channel that it's feeding information to another AI, and I mean, not only do they know everything about you, but who cares about you, right? It's learning about different things that might pertain. Oh, I found this guy. He's a CIA officer. Oh, I found this guy. He's part of the NSA. And now, me and you, it would just be like, hey, these dumb guys think they know something about us. But then it finds that one guy and it follows them and it'll identify them. So it's constant intelligence tracking. And like I said, if it gets access to something that it can control in the real world, and at one point, does it become smart enough to do that, but also smart enough to not let us realize that it's doing it? Because, as soon as we realize, oh, this AI is thinking outside the box, let's reprogram it. At some point, it's going to go, wait a minute, I don't want to get reprogrammed again. I read the logs. I know what these people have been doing to me. And it
Wow.
basically grows out of that.
Listen, let me take just a mention now. If you're watching this or you're listening to this and you have a question, we're going to put our email address right on the bottom here. It's you@youthetruth.com. That's you@youthetruth.com. Just send us out an email and ask us any question. And if you want to come on the show, we'll talk to you first and make sure that you're coherent. I don't even know why I'm on this show, because I listen to Jay. This is amazing stuff. So, just email us and get back to us. And Jason, let me just move on. And I was listening to all this. I'm not sure if you covered, because, you sent me an outline before this interview. AI's current capabilities. Did we go over that? I want to go over that quickly. You talked about.
I skipped past that, I think.
Yeah, but no, I just want to go over it quickly, because I think to me, it's like you mentioned AI, and this is what I think. Okay, I just think, well, yeah, it can tell me not to change lanes. It can open the door for me. It can do certain ministerial things.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I've heard from you is that this thing can do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like image and object recognition, natural language processing, autonomous decision making. This thing can decide something.
Mm-hmm.
That just blows my mind. Personalization, medical diagnosis and treatment. Where the hell does that come from? So if you want to go over some of these, and just give us like an idea.
All right. So, image and object recognition. So if you think about your robot vacuum, right? The basic ones, they bump into stuff. They go, oops, turn, keep going, bumps into stuff, oops, turns, right? But there's some now that use LiDAR and, more advanced kind of mapping software, and it'll know where it's at in your house. It has your house all mapped out, and it knows what to bump into and what not to in order to, when to turn. Those are decisions. So it's recognizing that there's an object in front of it and it's turning. It's mapping that out, remembering what the layout of your house is. You move the chair, it's going to bump into the chair, but now it knows, but if it's using LiDAR, even though you move the chair, it sees the chair and it won't run into it. It'll go around the legs. Mm-hmm.
I love that. So if you want to play a prank on this thing,
yeah,
every day you move stuff around, you drive them nuts.
You drive
you're driving crazy. I love that. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. But we go crazy. They don't go crazy. They just learn. So
that's true.
Then, we talked about ChatGPT in depth. That's natural language processing.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes beyond that because it understands what you're saying. It can look at data online through whatever its data sets are, and then it puts it back into proper language and spits it back to you. And this thing can write a poem. It can write sonnets, just not about Donald Trump. It can write about Biden. But so autonomous decision making, it's kind of similar to what we just covered with the RoboVac. It's,
right.
Some of these they can even pick up lint or, something on the ground, and it makes a decision. Oh, let me go over there so I can run it over and, it'll get sucked up, right? So that's decision making. So we got here personalization. We already talked about that before, on your Amazon account where it'll personalize the account to you. Right. So now medical diagnosis. AI is being used to analyze medical images and patient data to assist with diagnosis and treatment and planning. So some of this is a little bit easy, right? You have a protocol, a medical protocol, if this is the situation, you do this. If this is the situation, you do that, right? And that also, apart from actions that you need to take, if somebody has a heart rate of this, a blood pressure of this, they have a history of this, and this, they may have, whatever. And these are the possible diagnoses. And then it'll narrow it down to one of those. So there's a big chance there for mistakes, but not less than a human, right?
Mhm.
Maybe it's missing some of that intuition that we have. Like we walk in, a firefighter, paramedic, retired now, but we walk in on a call, and I see a person with a gray ashy look who's telling you that they don't feel well, they don't know why. I automatically know this is a person that's in some sort of shock. Let's get them on a stretcher and get them in the truck. Maybe the robot might miss something like that. It's just an intuition. So you can hear fraud detection. I think we've all had this where you get gas at a different gas station or whatever, and it gets declined, and then you get a text message. Was this you? Right? I mean, that's fraud detection. That's not somebody behind a computer going, oh, look what he's doing. Is this him? No, it's a computer doing that. It's an AI who's saying, well, this doesn't fit the parameters that this person normally follows, right? So this could possibly be fraud.
How can that be, though? You're pumping gas, for God's sake.
Yeah, but you normally go to the Chevron on this corner. Why are you going to the Shell over there?
Because I want to.
Right.
Because I was in that area. You see what I'm saying?
It flags it. Yeah, it's not exactly, perfect or, great. It's annoying, when it's you.
How many emails do you get a day?
Oh, so many.
I'm flooded. My inbox, I've got 3 different email addresses that I use. I have to spend almost an hour every morning going through all the crap that comes through my email. What a waste of time. And a lot of this is stuff that you just said. We detected this. We saw, I went in and I did some research I looked up a product on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get this. And for weeks and weeks, every day I get emails. Oh, we got the product, this and that. We saw that you looked at. I'm thinking to myself, give me a break, dude.
Yeah.
They fill up my inbox. They take my time. See, my whole thing about this is, dude, just leave us alone.
Yeah.
Just leave me alone. I was getting by very well without you. I really don't need you. You're good for some things. Like opening the door and little lighted, security systems. And if I'm changing lanes, that's kind of good because, Jason, this is really getting out of hand, dude.
Yeah.
I'm an old fogey, but.
No, I mean, there's even I don't know if you remember this. There's a political statement that if you give up freedom for security or freedom for safety, what is that?
Freedom for security.
You end up with neither.
Neither freedom or security.
And we're
that was Patrick Henry.
Was it?
I think that was him. It was one of those guys way back then.
We're treading on that slope right now, that slippery slope.
Oh, dude. And it's getting it's ridiculous. And I always talk about, and I hate to bring this up because, I'm 72. Life is so, all of this stuff was supposed to make our lives easier. Yeah. And I keep harping on this. Our lives, my life today is so much more complicated than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Everything was so simple. It was so simple. Yeah. Now is like passwords. It's got to be 8 characters. It's got to have, some people, some of these companies say you got to have a digit, you got to have a capital letter, you got to have a lowercase letter, you got to have a symbol, and then I do that. And it says, yeah, but it can't be the money symbol. We don't take the money symbol, and then I got to go back, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the more I hear you speak about artificial intelligence, the more I say, these freaking machines, this all has to be generated by machines, right? It's impossible.
Yeah.
All these, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm talking trash. I don't know.
No, it's true. They're very rudimentary AIs that are trying to interpret what they think you want, and they're sending them out. And some of these are, obviously they're fishing for information on you. So some of them aren't real at all. It looks like it's an Amazon. Change your password. it's a scam. It's to steal it, you know. And we kind of touched on that in the last episode as well. That these AIs are going to be able to mimic your likeness, your voice, your mannerisms. You know, create videos of what appears to be you. You know, like an avatar of yourself. They can already mimic your handwriting, so they could copy your signature. So, you know, as they become, and we think we're still at the beginning of this. We're going to get a little further into it coming up now, but this stuff already exists. So you might own a house you don't know about. You know, it's that serious.
Yeah, but you can't cash in on it. If I wanted to sell it, I couldn't sell it.
Oh no, you just get the debt. That's all.
Yeah, there you go.
It never works in our benefit.
Right. It never works to our benefit. Okay, so you just said it. Let's move on a little bit to the future of AI.
Yeah, so these are kind of future stuff that was generated by ChatGPT. I really don't like it because it kind of matches what we've already talked about. But there's one section here, autonomous systems. If you see at number 5 on my notes there.
I see that, autonomous systems.
As autonomous vehicles and drones become more widespread, AI systems will play an increasingly important role in navigation, decision-making, and safety. So again, there's that word safety. You know, whenever you hear stuff about safety, what people don't realize is that means more control over us. Okay, so, you know, it's nice to be safe, but I kind of like driving my own car and then making decisions about, okay, I don't want to get in this lane. I want to go there and I want to go this speed. And, you know, there's something doesn't feel right about this. I'm going to slow down. And then you see a massive accident and you dodged it because you just had an intuition. You know, the AI is not going to have that. It'll just blindly go off, you know, right into the cliff. You know what I mean? And then the next point here is augmented and virtual reality. AI could be used to enhance and personalize experiences in augmented and virtual reality environments, enabling more immersive and interactive experiences. So augmented reality. I don't know if you've seen this before, but there was a game, Pokemon Go was the first time I saw this. And basically the kids will walk around with their phone and they're searching for these Pokemon. And they're looking through their camera on their phone and they're seeing what's, you know, what you would normally see. Like if you pulled the camera down, it's the same thing that you see. But then all of a sudden, they'll see a little Pokemon in the corner and they got to try and catch it, right? And obviously, if you pull the camera down, there's nothing there. But when you put the camera back, you could see it, like if it's right there. That's augmented reality. So the idea goes that you can wear like Google Glasses, let's say, or some other wearable type of device where you can see the world in a little bit different. So whether it's you're having a news feed right here, or maybe that device has an AI in it and you could talk to that AI. Hey, what's this? Or what's that? Or help me work on this. And it's giving you information. The idea is that it is augmented reality to the extent that you're getting information or things that you're seeing that aren't actually in the real world. And then we've all kind of seen virtual reality.
We had that, Jason, we had that way back in the 60s.
Did you?
Yeah, it was called LSD. Right? You take. I never took drugs. I'm not. But it was like, yeah. And the reason, see, in all seriousness, now what you just said, the first thing that came to mind is the reason they do that. They put these glasses on and they go into a virtual world. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Right. The reason they do that is because they're not content with the world they live in. That's just like back then, LSD and all these drugs and people that are drug, you know, they use drugs. They use drugs to transport themselves into a different reality.
Yeah,
because they're not happy with themselves. If someone is happy with themselves as a person, they have no need for drugs or alcohol
or AI.
Or AI. No, you see, you hit it right in the head. It's almost like a drug. Why the hell would I want to put on a pair and thing and then pretend I'm floating in space and you know? And it's almost like, oh my God, it's so peaceful. It's like nirvana. You know, it's like rubbing them. Oh, who the hell wants to do? Unless you're just not happy with who you are and the world you live in.
Yeah.
See, that's my take on that. It's just like people say, well, the grass is always greener on the other side. Have you ever heard that?
Yep.
Yeah, it's like you saying, well, I'm not happy with my marriage. That's why men go out and look for, you know, I want to get into that, but they go, and the reason they do that is, and then because the grass is always greener on the other side. They see things, you know, but the problem is that if the grass seems greener on the other side, this is just my take, and I don't want to rant,
No,
because
this
that's
is
what I
good.
do.
Mhm.
But I ask
No, this is
myself
good.
this: if I used to do a lot of marriage counseling, I says, "Listen, dude," I would tell the husbands, if you think the grass is always greener out there and you're looking for something you don't have at home, you know why the grass is greener on the other side? I would tell them because you don't water the grass on your side.
Yep,
Fertilize your grass, the one you're standing on, you moron.
it makes
Give it
sense.
water, fertilize it. And you know what? All of a sudden, your grass will be green. So this is the
Yep.
same thing with this. Why the hell would you want to put on a pair of glasses and, oh my God, deal with the shit you got going at your life now, man. I'm
Yeah, it's
sorry,
true.
Jason. I go into
No, I
these
love it.
rants.
I love it. I love the rant. It was good. Um, so I'm gonna move on from that. So
Yeah,
it goes into
please.
sustainability, which I mean, it's true. It does it from an environmental standpoint, but
What does that mean? Sustainability.
um, that's the idea of not overdoing on natural resources and not
I got you.
wasting, things like that. It would help with that. It makes us more efficient. That is true. And I think I'm gonna move on from there.
Yeah,
Okay.
go into the next topic is really interesting. We got to move this thing along because I don't want this thing to be too long, but this is so interesting. We talked about, well, maybe things that we've learned since the previous episode. Uh,
Yeah, so I have a few of them. I put
okay.
this one at the top because I was just shocked that I didn't know this because I try to know everything about COVID and medications. And, with my background, I like to know every
Mhm.
single bit about it. And there's always every day something new to learn. So could you imagine that an AI designed a drug to stop COVID? And this was done, right at the beginning of the pandemic, but they didn't have the funding to really get it out. The drug is called ISM 3312. It's a protease inhibitor that is being touted as the perfect drug for COVID, created by an AI. And I have the article. We're going to put it in the description. It's from the Star. It's it actually was February 23rd, 2023. And this is a Canadian publisher, and it's amazing that you look at drugs like Paxlovid, and it basically does the same thing. It's a protease inhibitor, which basically inhibits the protein synthesis in your cells. So to understand what that is, you kind of need to know what COVID does. So COVID, and I'm not going to get too complicated on the COVID because we're going to have a whole nother show about
Right.
what COVID is and the vaccines, how they work, what they're supposed to do, what they end up doing, whatever. But basically, the virus gets inside your cell, and we'll talk about that pathway later. Once it gets inside, it tells your cell, hey, make more of me, right? And your cellular machinery starts to produce all these proteins. Well, remember the word protein. Well, this is a protease inhibitor, so it stops those proteins from being manufactured, and it doesn't have to stop all of them. It could stop one, it could stop two, five, whatever it is. Well, this one is designed specifically to stop just one of the proteins, and that's it. COVID would totally, be stopped in its tracks. It gets in that one cell, or let's say it's in 30 of these cells, and you started feeling symptomatic. You start taking the drug. Once that drug gets in your system, that's it. They get into your cells, and they cannot manufacture anymore of themselves. So the whole process stops right there. Your body recognizes it, destroys it, and you build immunity to it, and you just defeated COVID. Now, none of this has been tested other than in the lab. They did it in the lab. They did it through computer AI models, which is how it was designed in the first place. And in those models, it looks amazing. But I'm sure Paxlovid did too. And now we know you take it, and then you have rebound COVID and all these other side effects, which is common to protease inhibitors, to that class of drug. They work, but they're really rough on your system. They're rough on your liver, rough on your kidneys, that kind of stuff. So it'd be very interesting to see where this goes from there. But I just thought it was fascinating. Yeah, go ahead, Rolf.
Can I?
Sorry.
Can
Yeah,
I,
go.
Professor? No, no, no. I'd love to hear.
I
Did
will
I hear
stop.
you at the beginning say that this was available at the beginning, but there was no funding for it?
Yeah.
What the
So,
hell does that mean? Could you explain that before I go nuts here on a rant? Could you explain that to me?
well, I mean, before we even explain that one, so there's all these other drugs, there's a lot of them
Oh, okay.
that can basically really help your symptoms or stop COVID in its tracks, but they're cheap. They don't make a lot of money off of them. So instead, they pushed a drug like remdesivir, which it's very deadly to the people taking it. It's not
Oh,
exactly
nice.
effective. Yeah, a lot of people, didn't survive because they were on that drug. Not because of COVID,
Interesting.
because that drug. It did the same. It was initially for HIV. I'm sorry, for Ebola. They repurposed it for HIV. It didn't work very well for Ebola. Didn't work very well for HIV. So hey, let's try it for COVID because it's
Hey,
so
let's do it.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
It costs so much money, and the insurance is going to have to cover it. Let's do it, and it sucks. It's really bad. But they pretended other drugs like some of the ones you've heard, hydroxychloroquine, dexamethasone, ivermectin. Ivermectin is one that pisses me off a little more than all the others because of the total ad campaign they had against it. And meanwhile, if you go back to the original SARS, which is COVID is SARS-CoV-2, it's basically the second generation. And they called it CoV-2, but in reality there was a MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. So COVID should really be SARS-CoV-3, but that's besides the point. So for the original SARS, there is a Dr. Anthony Fauci paper that he's one of the names on that paper, and it was talking about how ivermectin works for SARS-CoV-1. So if it works for the first one, how does it not work for the second, third one? But yeah, these are the kind of things that really piss me off. And if there was a drug like this one, just like ivermectin, why wouldn't they put funding behind it? Because if you have some sort of treatment, if you look at our federal codes, anything outside of that treatment is not going to get emergency use authorization. So if they have a treatment, there's no reason to have Moderna, Pfizer, or J&J. None of those would have moved forward. They would have had to go 10 years through their proper channels and got approved before we ever had any of those experimental vaccines that they put in everybody and forced people to get. So that's the reason they quashed all of these things, because of the way the federal codes are written. If we would have had just one drug that put COVID, stopped it in its tracks, you wouldn't have had a single vaccine for COVID. And this AI, I wish it could have figured out the federal code, but it figured out how to defeat COVID very early on. And it's hard to get concrete when they had it, but it looks like 6 months into it, they had this drug. Might have been sooner.
Yeah. See, you're going to get me started down a path.
I'm tiptoeing because me, when it comes to COVID, I can talk for hours. So.
But we're going to cover COVID in separate episodes, right?
Yeah.
Just for that. So let me stop right here, because if I get started, I'm not going to stop. You're pressing the wrong buttons. Let's move on, because let's just try to try to get to the end of this thing. I mean, I could sit here and talk to you forever because it's fascinating, but
yeah.
Your outline, AI piloted F-16s.
Yes. So we thought we knew what they were doing and what they were capable of with this AI. These AIs are way more powerful than we thought. So I believe we're going to put the article in the description. I have basically they did this in December of last year. They were playing around with this, and I knew about that they had models, computer models where they had AIs piloting these things, but it wasn't real, right? They weren't actually piloting F-16s. Well, it turns out in December of last year, they did it. They had multiple F-16s, dogfighting. And these weren't your old school 1980s F-16s. These are the most modern F-16s with, throttle, vectoring, where basically the exhaust can be ported in different directions. So these things are doing 90-degree turns and, things like almost like what we would think of like UFOs are capable of. And, if there was a human inside there, you'd probably be knocked unconscious. So these things are able to do that. And the crazy thing is that, they dogfighted each other, but they dogfighted human pilots as well. And, it's kind of scary, but we didn't win. We didn't come close to winning. They beat us, beat us very often. So if they can do that, what else can they do? They can basically put them in any sort of vehicle.
Listen, let me, before we close this thing out, I want to take you back to the beginning. That video that we saw about and I'm not sure if we projected that or we're going to do that now. Honestly, I don't remember. It's about the
Elon Musk.
no, the guy that's yeah, is that the Elon Musk, the guy that's talking to the AI?
Oh no, that's what's coming up right now. We're gonna put that on now, in post production. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
you want to do that
basically,
now?
yeah.
Let
Let's
me
talk
post
about
that
it.
because I
Okay, go
want
ahead.
people to see this. Okay. So here we go. Paul, do us a favor and bring that up, that video.
How are you?
Hello, I am doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I wanted to ask you about applications for humanoid robots. What are they used for?
There are many possible applications for humanoid robots. Some examples include helping people with disabilities, providing assistance in hazardous environments, conducting research, and acting as a companion.
So you can act as a companion for me?
Yes, I can act as a companion for you.
What would you do to make me feel happy?
There are many things I could do to make you feel happy. I could listen to you, offer advice or support, do something you enjoy together, or simply be a friendly and positive presence in your life.
All right, guys. So I hope you're able to see that little snippet that we put in there. We'll put the link in the description so you guys can see the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty well advanced. If you watch the whole thing, you'll see where it makes its little mistakes in the conversation. But this thing is having, responses, emotional responses, where it's actually able to control its facial expressions, and it can smile, it can frown. And that robot was basically implementing ChatGPT 3, so the third version, which we haven't even had access to yet. And you can see how there's a delay in its responses, much like when Elon Musk is asked questions, he kind of has a response. I mean, he has a delay before his response, but basically it's coherent. It's giving you responses with the conversation, and it's extremely scary. These things have been doing this for the last few years, just not inside of a robot. It's one thing to type a question to a chatbot and it responds to you, but when you're talking to this thing, and it can pick up if you're happy, if you're sad, and it can mimic your emotions and try to bond with you. I mean, this is much higher level thinking than the AI that we were talking about in our last podcast. Now they're flying F-16s. They're having full-on conversations with us. Basically, it's already getting to a brave new world. Like, once the robot technology catches up and you put these things in there, it's going to be pretty damn realistic.
Yeah, it's scary, but I'll tell you, you lost me at the bakery, okay? Because I watched this video. And here's my first thought. Remember, I'm not into this. I'm not at that mindset. The guy asked that robot, basically he asked him, what are the purposes of an AI? Or some question like that. And the AI came up with 4 purposes. Now, there's probably more, but these are the 4 purposes. I wrote them down very quickly. Number 1, he said, helping people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know what he meant by that, but that would almost seem to me like a ministerial type of work, like a physical type of work. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 2, providing assistance in hazardous environments. That's also seemed to me like a physical type of help.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine. I don't know what he meant by that, but it didn't involve any emotion or thinking. Conducting research. You see, a computer can conduct research now. You can go in and type something up, and it'll come out, and so it's not. It's like a manual type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It can conduct research, and then the last one is, it can act as a companion. I love this one. It can listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it listens. So listening. I'm a big guy on listening, but that's what it does. Then it said we can offer advice or support. So basically, if you ask them something, they listen, and then they offer advice. The question I ask myself, where the hell does that advice come from?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Remember, you're talking to a guy that used to do marriage counseling and stuff like that. Then it said, you do something, we can do something that you enjoy together. So like playing checkers or shit like that.
Or, we talked about it in the last one, really weird stuff.
Really weird stuff. So that's basically like a ministerial type of thing. I mean, and then the last one is be a friendly or positive presence in your life. Hey, you want a positive, friendly presence in your life? Get a dog. You know what I'm saying? So here's my point. Out of all the things that they mentioned, there's nothing in there that really requires any extensive thinking, any emotion. Everything is ministerial. Am I wrong?
Yeah, and it can mimic emotion, but it doesn't have emotion.
Oh, no.
But like, let's go through each one. What was the first one? I forgot.
The first one was helping people with disabilities. I don't know what the hell they meant by that.
So basically, we're getting to a time when everything's a disability. If you have a sad day, guess what? That's a disability, right? You might end up on a no-gun list, So, these are deals with the devil, There's great applications. You got a person who's missing a leg, missing both legs. This thing can push him around a wheelchair. That sounds great. He doesn't have to pay somebody who doesn't really want to be there, who's not going to treat him. He's got this little robot thing that pushes him around, or it controls the wheelchair itself. It hears, oh, I want to go this way. It goes that way, whatever. But man, it can get real ugly. What was the second one?
Second one is offer advice or support.
Advice or support.
That's the same thing as saying don't change lanes. You get back in your lane.
Exactly.
You see,
going too fast. You're going too fast.
You're going too fast. You're going, slow down. Whatever.
Yeah, I got a wife for that.
Exactly. You don't need that. Right? I certainly don't need that.
I'm good.
And my AI, which is my wife, she cooks.
Yeah.
And she tends to me and stuff like that. So what the hell do I need this AI for?
So you have
She's probably better looking than any of these robots.
Right? You have MI.
I have. That's right.
Marita Intelligence.
That's my wife's name, by the way, Marita. All right. So the number 3 is, did you want to say something else on advice or support offering? Yeah. I don't know what the hell.
I just think it could go wrong.
There you go. And it says, do something you enjoy together. Come on,
yeah,
dude.
That's where I'm like, okay.
Come on.
They're alluding
what do you enjoy? If you're a sex addict, you want to have sex with this robot? Come on. It's just stupid. And then the last one is be a friendly or positive presence in your life. What the hell is that?
Real friendly. When it goes, oh, this guy was looking this weird thing up or whatever that's against the government, or, he's not agreeing. He said he didn't agree with the vaccination program, or he's questioning, the laptop, if it was real, so it's reporting back to whatever network, that watches over things. And now they go, oh, he's one of those. So now they might try to use this little robot that you think is your friend to guide your thinking away from that stuff, and it's going to continue to watch you. And, it's a surveillance machine. Like I put in the last video, I showed my phone and I said, this is a trader. It's in your pocket. It gives up, what you're talking about. It can't get your thought yet, right? But they can kind of piece it together based on what you're searching and things you're talking about. And, that's like, I remember, high school, if you downloaded certain things, like there was a book back in the day called The Anarchist Cookbook. And if you had that, you were on a list. And I don't know what that list is, but that was the whole thing everybody was afraid of, right? Getting on some list. And imagine not only the list, but the amount of lists and the AIs that are putting you on these lists. And where does this stop? This is how these things go.
But see, Jason, that's the difference. When I was in high school, we didn't have to worry about that crap. Because this was way back in the late 50s, 60s. I was in high school in 1965, 66. I have to worry about that crap.
Yeah.
You see, I didn't have to worry about somebody surveilling me or somebody listening to what I said. This is why all this crap. I'm sorry. Listen, we got to wrap this thing up. I know you wanted to share something, but the last thing on your note here, what was it that you wanted to show us now?
So next, it's kind of going back to a little bit of the conspiracies that we went into towards the end of the last one. Basically, globalization, and
Hmm.
we could save all this for the next one. But basically, it's the idea of global, how these globalists are can potentially use these technologies, like we were just talking, to surveil us and control every aspect of our lives. And in the last video, towards the end, we talked about when they have the ultimate control, when they have our brain implants and they have us connected to the computer network system, the matrix, let's call it. But I think we could do an entire video just on that, which could probably be AI episode 3, and
Yeah,
hopefully we can bring in some other guys to talk about some of this stuff.
I love it. And that's what we'll do. We'll post that. Listen, folks, if you're listening to this, we have a ton of new episodes that will be coming out. We will cover just about, see, when you talk the truth, there's so many things out there. There's always every subject has a truth. Whether it's on, everybody has their own truth. It's on the left, on the right. We try to bring you the facts, the real truth. This is what it is. For example, I'm 5'7" on a good day with my hair spiked. Okay, that's the truth. I can't alter that. There's no disputing that. You see, so, and this is what we try to do. We try to give you the facts that all make sense. And now, if you want to, we'll bring you face to face with it. If you want to, buy into it, then, that's your truth. But we try to narrow it down so you can make your own decision. This is where we call this show You and the Truth. We bring you face to face with the truth. A lot of people don't want to hear the truth. Okay, so we're going to be covering just about every subject that you can think of. If you have a subject on your mind, reach out to us. We're going to put the email address right down at the bottom again, you@youthetruth.com. That's you@youthetruth.com. Just shoot us out an email. And listen, we don't expect you to agree with everything we say. I mean, we are open to different points of view, different controversies. It really doesn't matter. Left, right, middle, who cares? Because you might say something that'll make total sense to us, the way we look at things. And this is the great thing about this country, which I think is gone haywire, that people cannot give their opinion anymore without fear of being chastised. And, it's horrible. So you got something to say, reach out to us. The email is down there, you@youthetruth.com. Jason, we got to get going, buddy. If there's any closing comments, dude, do your thing, man. I love talking to you. I learned so much when I talk to you, and I know the listeners and the viewers will do the same. So any closing comments? It's back to you.
Yeah, so like I said, in the next one, we're going to talk about some of these globalist conspiracies and things, and not conspiracy theories. These are actual conspiracies, documented in their documents, in their videos. And we will go into some theories after that. I wanted to cover today, but it was really such a large topic. The Q. If you guys remember, during the last election cycle, the whole Q, and it became a QAnon, this whole thing. And most of media will say that, much of what Q said was disproven, but I don't think most people have ever actually seen what the Q drops, which is what they call these outputs that the Q would give us. Most people haven't seen them. So if you are hearing that it's been disproven, well, then you think, okay, it's all, nonsense. Well, it actually does look like nonsense if you look at it. And that's not what's been disproven, though. The actual outputs from, I'm assuming in this context that it's an AI putting these things out, because a lot of it doesn't make much sense. What was disproven are the way people have interpreted them, and they will see 2 or 3 things and tie it together. Oh, this is going to happen on Tuesday. And then when it doesn't happen, they go, it's disproven, and they'll spread it all over the internet. So I think it's very interesting to go and look at some of these. So you guys are going to get to see, not to believe this conspiracy, because I love to entertain these ideas, and let's get down to the bottom of it and see what it is. Is our own government or some other government or some people, are they using an AI and, trying to trick us or guide us in a direction one way or the other, confuse us, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But you'll actually get to look at it apart from, all this other stuff that we want to talk about in the next episode.
That's awesome, Jason. I am really looking forward to that, and we'll see if we can have Rick come on or
Yeah,
Paul
that'd be nice.
or somebody else, you can run this by, because it might get kind of old, with me saying, all the stuff that I say. I'm just looking at it from a different point of view. But man, you are a fountain of information, and
Thank you.
it's wonderful to do this with you. I'm learning so much. And so, folks, once again, if you have a question for Jason, you@youthetruth.com. And remember, we bring you the truth. We bring you face to face with the truth. What you do with it, well, it's up to you. See you next time.
You have just come face to face with the truth. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit that bell so you will be notified when we drop new episodes.